Hey folks, welcome back to Game Geeks. I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Today's episode, we're talking about kind of a fun little book that I enjoyed more than I expected to, and I think you will too. Buccaneer Through Hell and High Water. This is a guide to piracy, nautical naughtiness, and the golden age of sail for Savage Worlds. Now, piracy has gotten attention from Savage Worlds in the past. Probably starting with 50 Fathoms, and then we had Pirates of the Spanish Main, 50 Fathoms again, depending on which release you're talking about. There was some Golden Age of Sail piracy in Solomon Kane, so it's one of the themes like zombies and westerns that keeps popping up with Savage Worlds because the engine is so well suited to play in that sort of adventurous, swashbuckling yet still dangerous type of genre. This falls closer to Solomon Kane than it does either of the previous two examples. This is written for the previous edition to Savage Worlds. It is not for the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. This is for the Explorer's Guides that we had before that. Is the conversion going to be a great deal of difficulty for you? No, but I felt mildly obligated to tell you about it up front. So, with this, you have about what you'd expect from a Savage Worlds book, which it starts with how to make characters, and it gives you archetypes for your character that you can pick from so you can be functional on a boat. Everything from the captain, to the navigator, to the boatswain, to the surgeon. And then it brings one up that I had never really thought about before, which was the carpenter. And when I was first reading that, my response was, "Really, carpenter?" And then a voice in my head that sounded like my non-existent brother said to me, well, that makes sense. That would be the equivalent of the engineer on any more modern ship. And I was like, yeah, you're right, it is, so we can keep going with our day now. So it gives you the archetypes to start with, and then because it's a Savage Worlds book, you could play this completely straight if you wanted to. That is no mysticism or weirdness at all, but they did include a lot of options for you to invoke that into your game, including the event that brought it all together. Now, the different types of magic you have in this are voodoo, which is the power of life over death and is principally involved in the making of powders, ointments, and potions. Holy men, both of the Protestant, Catholic, and native varieties, and the one that gets the most love and attention are the witch hunters. The witch hunters in this come from a few different points of view, depending on what you want to work with, and then these different organizations all have sort of a map about how they get along with each other. The ones you have to choose from are the Inquisitors of Spain, the Jesuits, the Papal States. The witch hunter organizations that you have to choose from include what you kind of expect: the Inquisitors of Spain, the Jesuits, the Papal States, the Puritans, and the Knights Templar, which was really the head scratcher for me of the whole book, is why do we have to include the Knights Templar into our sort of Caribbean Pirates Age of Sail game, other than the fact that, kind of like the Comte de Saint-Germain and a bad penny, they keep popping up everywhere. And it never really clearly answers, other than I think they went with it for the cool factor and because they thought it'd be kind of fun. And I can't lie to you, it really is. It's a nice inclusion. There's sort of a map about how these all get along with each other. Newsflash, no one really likes the Puritans all that much, and the Puritans really don't care for other people all that much either. There's everything from they're friendly to they're neutral to slightly hostile to open hostility to, oh God, they're just going to kill each other, get out of the way. There's a whole bunch of new edges and hindrances specifically for making, running, and being a part of a sailing vessel. I've not done a detailed analysis comparing this to 50 Fathoms or Pirates of the Spanish Main to see how much comparison or overlap there really is there. That's not something I'm really all that keen on doing for you. There are the nations of the world that have a stake in the Caribbean and that region. Everything from England to France to Spain, the Papal States, the Dutch Republic, which is one I hadn't thought of, but really does indeed need to be there. And then this sort of gets into the GM section, which is the plot on what makes this world weird. And it sort of all revolves around the fact that a lot of leaders and holy men from the slave nations that were being drug out of Africa got together and did a big magic rite, to try to make right, as in correct, what's been going on for them. And they essentially brought magic back into the world and everything was great and there were miracles, but then on the other side of it, an unholy fissure opened in the Caribbean, which it gives you the Latin name for, but I'm not even going to try it because however I say it, it will be wrong. this unholy fissure, which is where evil stems from, and this is where we get a bunch of new islands, ghosts and evil spirits, ghost ship, the storm of souls. Essentially everything that is mystical and creepy and wrong with the setting can all come back to that one event. Then it gets into rules for the ships, which is really where you think there would be a lot of meat for this setting, and I'll be honest with you, you're not wrong. There is a lot of meat here for that. Both creating and modifying your ships, how to get what you want out of it. Do you want it to be faster, tougher, more cargo space, quicker on the turn? An extensive combat system that, while it doesn't openly invoke minis for ship-to-ship combat, it would certainly help if you had that. Then there's a bestiary of things, both mundane, like people, animals, crypto animals, something like the Lasca, which is a shark-octopus hybrid, which I think I've heard of before, and then I see that and I go, eek, and run. Eagle-sized mosquitoes, I'll let that marinate for you for a second. Eagle-sized mosquitoes. I don't get creeped out by big animals very much. Bugs, spiders, snakes have never bothered me. To paraphrase a friend of mine who I think is paraphrasing a book, if I ever ran into an eagle-sized mosquito, I think the only thing I would call it is Sir. That would be horrifying to me. And then a variety of demons, undead, and other creatures that go bump in the night that are caused by the unholy fissure. There's an adventure included in the back, your sort of standard yet very workable adventure generator system, and a variety of hooks and non-player characters involved in those hooks for you to make stories out of. I missed the boat on pirate movies. There seem to be 3 types of movies that a lot of the people that I know as a kid got into, and you were either into 2 of these or one of them. I've never met anyone who really nailed all 3. Those were old horror movies, which is sort of where I got my time. For those of you who've watched the show before, you've heard this. If not, well, I'm going to tell you now. There was a show when I was a kid called Shock Theater out of Dayton, hosted by Dr. Creeper, that was a TV show that ran, for example, a lot of the old Hammer or Amicus horror movies. And my dad and I would sit and watch those, and that's where I developed a love for things like Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter, Yarga, Count Yarga, you know, the vampire count that's not a Dracula, the House That Dripped Blood, Dr. Taro's House of Horrors, those sorts of movies. It just really, I watch them now through a reminiscent lens, and I realize on the one hand, my God, these are slow. But on the other hand, I have very good memories of them. So you either, pitter patter, let's get at her. You either have the horror movies, you had the kung fu movies, which I never watched, or you had pirate movies. Piracy has never appealed to me as a genre, a setting, or an era in which to game. But damned if this book doesn't come really close to making me want to run a game in that zone. There's a lot you can do in here. You can even apply it. If you want to bring in All for One, the Savage Worlds version, you could certainly make this a Musketeers and Pirates Age of Sail game if you really wanted to. If you wanted to bring in Solomon Kane, you can make it darker and more monster hunty. This is really, as a direct setting, it's good. Its applicability to other Savage Worlds types of games you can run, and those settings, I think makes it even a better book for you to get. I like it, and I don't even like pirates. That should tell you something. For Game Geeks, I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Good day and good gaming.